Eureka is an awesome card. Eureka is a sorcery that costs 2 and 2 green mana. When you cast Eureka, each player may take any permanent in their hand and put it directly into play. Players take turns playing one card from their hand until nobody wants to play any more permanents. The rest of the text on this card is obsolete because of how the rules of the game have changed, but while this card is resolving, other game actions cannot be taken, and permanents with an X in their cost treat the X as 0. So those last bits are just rules of the game, but with the earliest rules in the game, technically interrupts could interrupt a card effect like this, but that didn't last long. I think you couldn't do that by revised. Still, given how early Legends came out, it makes sense to apply this text to the card. So this is a really cool effect, and longtime players probably recognize this effect from cards like Show and Tell, or even Braids, Conjurer Adept. Eureka is a bit different than those cards, primarily because you can cast Eureka, and if your whole hand is permanents, you can dump your entire hand. That's pretty strong. This is a super good card that would probably see a shitload more old school play if it didn't cost over $400. Hell, I'm sure this would see a lot more Commander play if it wasn't a $400 card, because this card is super funny in Commander. But beyond that, it's kinda harder to come up with things to say about this card than it was with some of the previous cards I talked about. Putting every permanent from your hand into play is very obviously a powerful effect, but it's also a very simple effect. There isn't much rules baggage that goes along with a card like this. I guess I could mention that putting permanents onto the battlefield doesn't count as casting them, so triggers that say when this permanent enters the battlefield will trigger, but triggers that say when you cast or when you play this permanent will not trigger. It's also worth noting that this process continues until every player has played out everything they want to. It doesn't stop just because someone stops playing cards out. So if you cast this and your opponent has 2 cards they can play, you can still dump your whole hand. The effect of this card only finishes resolving when every player has played out every card that they want. Oh yeah, and I guess going back to cards that are triggered by being put onto the battlefield, none of these triggers will activate until the entire card has finished resolving, and then the active player will put their triggers on the stack in any order they want, then every other player will do the same in turn order, which means your triggers will resolve last if you play this card, which could be something to consider. This card is kind of insane. It's pretty funny that this card is green because this definitely doesn't feel like a green effect. I don't hate that it's green, and I actually think it's for the best as far as regards to old school balance. Green needs all the help it can get, and blue has enough cards that are good. So given the context of the old school card pools, I like Eureka where it's at. But I can also see why people would consider this dissonant with the color pie. This card is really interesting because cards like this and Winds of Chains and Chains of Mephistopheles all came out in the set with the Elder Dragons, which are slightly less competitively viable. In fact, I wonder if they put the upkeep effects on the Elder Dragons after they designed this card to prevent them from being played in a Eureka deck that couldn't hardcast them. That's kind of funny to think about. Shit, I really like this card, but I'm kind of running out of steam on things to say about it. It's a weird, funky card from Legends, and it has that razzle-dazzle that some Legends cards have, like Chains or Tabernacle, and it's also a really good effect. But it is a pretty simple card on its face. I guess we might as well talk about the art now. The original art for Eureka was illustrated by Kaya Folio, and I'm on record saying that she's one of my favorite artists in Magic. Bird Maiden is one of the coolest arts of all time. Shahrazad is fantastic as well, and Spirit Link is insanely well done. The point here is that I really love her work, and this piece is no exception. And I guess the elephant on this art is E = mc squared, the famous mass energy equivalence equation created by Albert Einstein. That's pretty cute, and a fun way to try and express the feelings this card is trying to perpetuate, and it's also really cute that Kaya made this piece in the same set that her husband drew Albert Einstein on Presence of the Master. No idea if they planned that or if they just share some brain cells, but either way, I think it's super cute. I also like that this card just uses shades of green. I think that goes a long way with helping my brain trust that this is a green card. The wizard is also really awesome. I love the happy look and the frazzled beard. This piece is just really cool. And luckily, this card is interesting enough that it made it into Magic Online, which means we have another art to talk about. Ryan Pancoast illustrated this version of Eureka, and it's really well done. I'll be honest, I'm not sure the significance of the statues, but I think this is a reasonable way to express the concept of having a great idea while also being a green card. Obviously, I personally prefer the original art, but this art is well done, and I could see people preferring this art if they're not a big fan of Kaya's style. Which I don't relate with, but you know, art is subjective. Eureka is an interesting card, and one of those cards from Legends you can look at and say, damn, they don't make them like they used to. But like always, I'm interested in hearing what you guys think of Eureka. Personally, I'm really bummed this one is on the reserved list. It's a strong card for sure, but I also think a card like this is just wacky fun in multiplayer games, and it would be nice if it was a bit more accessible. That's all I have for you today. You can like the video if you liked it, you can subscribe if you give a shit, but either way, I hope you have a magical day. Thank you for watching.